You are listening to the Banker's Secret Podcast, the Canadian guide to create a significant and positive impact on the financial success and everyday quality of life for businesses, individuals, and families. Building sustainable and dependable wealth, your host Glen Zacher has been serving Canadians since 2004.
This is Talk to the Experts. You have to turn the black button. Turn that, yeah. Whoa. Now he's deaf. The joy of being in this studio is that when people come in, when guests come in, and I'm just going to tell you that it's a new notion and you need to pay attention closely. We'll be joined momentarily by Mr. Nelson Nash, who is seriously put together this infinite banking concept, and the gentlemen in studio today have just told me that Mr. Nash is actually going to be in Edmonton. It'll be the first time he's been in Canada, and we'll tell you more about that, but we should get a little bit of background. Maybe, Glenn, you should kick that off. And who are you?
Good morning, Leslie. Thanks for having us back. It's exciting.
Now that you're deaf, you mean?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, now that I'm deaf. Terrific, right? We've been in financial services for the last 18 years. Used to work at a bank, believe it or not, years ago, and just over 8 years ago started McGuire Financial and came to the marketplace with a holistic platform that we could offer our clients. And 5 years ago, and lo and behold, we discovered what we want to talk about today is the infinite banking concept. Okay. And having Mr. Nelson Nash here, so we're really excited about it, and we're just super excited to have him here.
Should I ask you why it's called McGuire?
When I sat down with a colleague of mine one day and just had a cup of coffee, and we just started putting names down on a piece of paper and kind of weeded them out, and we liked at the time I liked McGuire because it kind of sounded like it'd been around for a while, kind of leathery. It'd been leathery. Been in business for a while, old English, European, that kind of thing, and so it kind of stuck, and I get the question asked a lot.
I bet, because,
In fact, I had somebody address me as Mr. McGuire the other day.
Good heavens.
Matter of fact, but so it's good for fun. But that's how we started.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
They sat around over tea.
Over tea.
Well, let's just introduce Mr. Nash. He the infinite banking concept was in fact conceived by him in the early 80s. It was a result of his personal experience in several business activities. So his acumen in business is pretty well established. Spent over 35 years as an agent for two major mutual life insurance companies. He's a member of the $1 Million Roundtable. Anybody who's in that industry knows about the $1 Million Roundtable. I think it's that's quite an achievement. He's a member of the Equitable Life Assurance Society's Hall of Fame, and he's a chartered life underwriter. Spent over 55 years in the study of economics, the Austrian School of Thought. This began with the Foundation for Economic Education. Leonard E. Reed, the founder of that organization, became his mentor, and he is a charter member of the Leonard E. Reed Society. He's also the author of Becoming Your Own Banker and Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, which seems pretty lofty, doesn't it? Yeah, pay attention. This could be you. He teaches these two books all over the United States and in Canada in seminars that are 10 hours in length. He's done as many as 50 seminars per year. I thought the good part is that he is a pilot. I have a mad fascination for pilots. I think they have to be so precise and exact in what they do. Nelson Nash joins us, and he, of course, is the man behind the infinite banking concept. And before we go any further, maybe, Glenn, we should say that Mr. Nash actually will be here.
Very much so. Yeah, he's never been to Canada before, delivering his infinite banking concept, and Edmonton, Alberta is the choice of a place where we wanted to have him come, and we're super excited to have that. And I'll let Nelson, I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's going to explain to us what actually the infinite banking concept is.
Mr. Nash, if you would, could you, first of all, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Second of all, of course, let's just explain it. You would be the best gentleman to do so. What is the infinite banking concept?
It's a method of becoming your own banker through use of dividend-paying whole life insurance.
And how does that work?
Well, that's why it takes almost 10 hours to do the job. No, Leslie, this is a major paradigm shift for most people. It all has to do with the way that they think. And that is explained very deeply in my second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, that people, Leslie, just don't think. And they've been led down a primrose path by bankers into the entire world is in the worst condition financially that it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the banking function has been taken over by bankers. Those international bankers inflate the money supply. People think they have something, and they don't. It's all an illusion. Well, life insurance companies cannot inflate. And so you've got to store your wealth somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the best place to store it is with free contract with other free people. And, Leslie, that's all this stuff is.
Now, what was your inspiration then when you wrote the book Becoming Your Own Banker? Because I think that's the book that started it all, right? People started to go, wait a minute, that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's where it all started, because usually it takes catastrophe of some kind to get people's attention. And I was doing things in the real estate business according to the way the world teaches. And by the way, parenthetically, the world's never been right about anything. OPM, other people's money.
Yep.
I was using the leverage big time, and I made some money at it in the late 70s. It was significant, and that just got me hooked. And the projects have got bigger and bigger, and then along comes 1980 and 81, and interest rates here in the U.S. peaked at 21.5. That was prime rate at the bank. Well, I'm not prime rate, and I haven't found many folks who are. Us peons have got to pay 1.5 over. So I got caught owing lots of money at 23% interest, and that got my attention. Well, I had bought a lot of life insurance because I thought it was a good idea, and it dawned on me finally. I could get the money from 3 different life insurance companies at 5, 6, and 8% during those horrible times. And the only thing that limited how much I could get to is the same thing they asked you down at the bank, Leslie, when you asked them how big a check can you write. They say, Leslie, how much have you got in here? That's how big a check you can write. Well, I noticed that if I would put in lots more premiums, say 5 times what I was paying or so, 6 times what I was paying or so, then that would provide a pool that I could borrow from and pay off those snakes and dragons and never see them again. Well, this can't be done overnight. You got to think long range, and I just can't wait to get up there with you guys to see those magnificent forests, because in my bio, I think it's mentioned that I'm educated as a forester. And so you got to think long range, and most people just don't do that. So you think long range. You don't be afraid to capitalize your system through lots of life insurance policies. Don't steal from your system, and don't do business with banks.
Now, Mr. Nash, if we were to look at it, now we want people, and I can't imagine there's going to be any shortage of people who are going to go to the seminar, but what is it you want them to grasp from all this? What do you want them to take away from the seminar?
Well, first of all, I think there is a general understanding out there in the world that something is wrong in the financial world. But I want to get that across big time, that it's caused by their misunderstanding of what goes in the banking world, and that they are actually in financial slavery, and that you can get out. And the banking function should all be held at the you and me level. Mm-hmm. And the perfect instrument to do that is dividend-paying whole life insurance with a substantial financial company called life insurance.
Why is that? How does that work?
Well, that's why it takes, again, so much time. People got to adjust the way that they think. And as I mentioned earlier, you got to think long range. Leslie, it took me 13 years to get rid of the bankers. It's a slow process, but my wife and I have not seen a bank except for the convenience of a checking account in 19 years. And this is a very peaceful, stress-free way of life compared with the way most folks live.
So in actual fact then, Mr. Nash, you became your own banker.
See, absolutely, yes. furthermore, I have been teaching this to my 3 children, and now my 10 grandchildren, and now I have 4 great-grandchildren, and so we're working on that generation already.
And when you talk about the infinite banking concept, and it's going to be discussed in great detail on Saturday, March the 9th, you're going to show people how, in fact, they too will become their own banker. But does that then suggest to them, Mr. Nash, that they now are nobody in the world of finance? And when I say finance, I mean just personal finance. So if they're not dealing with a bank, do they have no credit history? Do they have no records or anything?
Well, if you're your own banker, credit rating means absolutely nothing. I could care less.
Hey, Nelson, Glenn here. Are you able to maybe just share with our listeners a little bit about, banking being a process, it's not a product, and, how we finance everything that we buy?
Well, we're doing this through the instrument of life insurance, and when people think of life insurance, they think of death benefit, but golly, I demonstrate in the seminar that your need for finance during your lifetime is much, much greater than your need for finance. And if you will solve for the need for finance on your personal level, it's the most profitable thing that you can do. And you'll have to put up so much death benefit that you can't get it past the underwriters. You'll have to end up insuring everybody you have an insurable interest in.
And are you allowed to have any kind of insurance? Like, can you have any limit on your insurance?
No, there are limitations and so forth out there. Again, that's why that you have to have practitioners out there like the McGuire Group. I'm an educator. I'm not in the life insurance business. I haven't been in the business in over 13 years. These 2 books keep me very, very busy with lectures. And furthermore, with that time demand, there's no way that I could personally look after someone's affairs, but you just got to have a coach, and the McGuire Group are very, very impressive in this regard.
So if you have a coach who helps you along with the infinite banking concept, together then, obviously, everybody grows stronger.
Oh, no question. But the key there is having a competent coach, because there aren't many people out there that really understand this concept. It's new to them, although the possibilities have been there for well over 200 years, but the world is slow learners.
Yeah, but today kind of special for us, the infinite banking concept. That's what we're talking about. It was conceived by Mr. Nelson Nash, who is also with us. This is a gentleman who has, I'll tell you, has been involved in a lifetime of finance. So he actually understands this, but he decided that he needed to take more control of money, and he wishes he'd done it 40 years earlier. He wanted to take more control of his own wealth, and he wrote a book called Becoming Your Own Banker, which explains the infinite banking concept. Now, he's written a second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. But I got to tell you, Mr. Nash, this is the time of year in Canada, people start to look at their RRSPs, and they're thinking, I got to put money into that. I think it's like your 401ks in the U.S. Is this a good place, a bad place? What's your view on this?
Well, that is covered entirely in one chapter in my book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. But to really understand this in proper context, you've got to understand what is known as Austrian economics. I think in my bio, you mentioned that I've spent over 55 years studying Austrian economics. That would take a little bit of time that I don't think we have time to explain, but that is essential. But I encourage people to go to my website, and that's infinitebanking.org, infinitebanking.org. Now, on that, you can find my reading list there, and when you click that reading list on, you'll find 230 books. And if you will read all those 230 books, you have one PhD in Austrian economics and one PhD in history. But you know how to eat an elephant, don't you?
One bite at a time.
Yes. Well, you just do one book at a time. But it can be done. But you just can't study economics without studying history. It's impossible. They are hand in glove. But when you get a few of those books there, you begin to get the trend of what's going on and why. But government programs of any kind really don't make a whole lot of sense, because in the U.S., the 401ks, et cetera, are a function of the IRS code.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the IRS code in the U.S. has only been around 99 years and 8 months. Now, when government creates a problem, Leslie, parenthesis, onerous taxation,
right,
and then turns around and grants you an exception to the problem they created, parenthesis, any tax-qualified plan,
right,
aren't you just a little bit suspicious you're being manipulated?
yes.
All right, I rest my case.
So that's got to be the same with ours, right? If we take a look at our tax, now everybody's scrambling to try and figure out how to get an RRSP so they can bring down their tax, which would suggest to you they've overtaxed us.
Yeah, that's right. And you have got suckered right into a trap there that ultimately you wake up one day and find out that that's what happened to you, and it's too late.
And it's too late.
So we don't. We're not involved in any tax-qualified plans at all.
At all?
No.
Nothing.
Yeah, I just wanted to let all our listeners know we are so blessed to meet Nelson Nash and discover him several years ago. Thank you, Nelson. You've showed us how to embrace really a simple concept and to empower our clients and their families to take control of their own financing over their lifetime. So nowhere have I ever discovered over 18 years where I could create a place to put a pool of money where it provides stability, sustainability, freedom for my family and certainly my clients. And Nelson, thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Glenn, thank you. It takes two to tango, man. All I did was put out the message there, and if someone doesn't pick it up and run with it, it's absolutely worthless. So,
yeah.
Mr. Nash?
The key is these guys, Leslie. I told you got to have a coach, and I am so impressed with these folks that they have the best grasp of this of anybody that I know, and I meet people all over the world about this message.
Mr. Nash, when you came up with the infinite banking concept, I mean, there must have been a lot of people who thought you were a complete loon, right? They would have thought you'd fallen on your head or something until they could actually grasp it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And now that you have, is there a downside? Because, I always tell people when they say, hey, I listened to your show and this is what happened, right? They go, yeah, what's the downside? So I'm going to ask you, is there a downside to this?
Yes, not participating.
Okay.
No, Leslie, someone is going to perform the banking function out there in the world. You cannot escape that.
Right.
And it should be you. It should be at the you and me level, not with central bankers. Like I say, there's so many books out there that substantiate this that it's overwhelming. But they don't see it through this set of eyes, that's all.
So that must be the fundamental principle of finance, right? Somebody needs to be the banker. It should be you.
You've got it.
Now, Mr. Nash, I have to ask you, Warehouse of Wealth, building your warehouse of wealth. Now, how is this book different than Becoming Your Own Banker? What do you want people to take away from that book?
It's a follow-up book to BYOB, Becoming Your Own Banker. And I emphasize the fact that people just don't think that this book is all about how people think.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm quoting Edison very early. Edison said 5% of the people think, 10% think they think, and 85% would rather die than think.
That's true.
And the follow-up quotation is by my mentor, Leonard E. Reed, the guy who started the Foundation for Economic Education back in 1946. Leonard said most people consider their thinking when really they're only rearranging their prejudices.
Wow.
Well, that was a powerful man. He was awesome, but that's the guy I learned more from than anybody.